All right. Hello, everybody. Test one, two. Right. All right. Bruce, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So I think we're having some link issues because Willie believes he's in the right room right now. And also, we had many more signups than who's currently in the audience. So it appears there's some type of link issue going on. Well, here's Willie.
Hey
Hey,
guys.
hey, Willie. So that was I don't know exactly what's going on with Riverside right now, but we'll probably just swap platforms in a bit because there have been some weird link issues in general, and we have far more signups this week than we did this month than we did last month. Yet the audience is showing that there aren't many people around. That being said, we're still going to dive in and just get the recording because we post and that's where the bulk of people will see it anyways is afterwards on social media. But for those in the audience, thank you for joining. Sorry if there was a link mix-up, any confusion going on there. And we're very excited to once again be joined with the fantastic Willie Miranda, sales coach, real estate sales coach extraordinaire. Today, we're going to be going over time management and a handful of fun principles. And while Willie is finishing getting set up and making sure that his internet is working properly, I'd just like to talk really briefly about social media marketing for real estate agents and just throw out an idea that is very important, but a lot of us aren't really considering. So when people think social media in real estate, the general idea is to think of creating a page that's all about yourself. It highlights places in your area. It's you going to bars and locations, and you are the focal point. For example, a page that's Nick McElmurray, real estate agent in Jupiter, Florida. Well, I would like to recommend the idea and have you guys all try challenging that belief by creating pages that are with the subject of the community that you are actually advertising in. Does that make sense? So rather than having a page, creating a page, a social media page called Nick McElmurray Real Estate Agent, rather, or Real Estate Agent in Jupiter, Florida, rather creating a page called Jupiter, Florida, Best Things to Do. Because when you do that, you are actually playing to what the consumers outside of just your friends and family, what prospects are most interested in seeing about your local area. Your friends and family, yes, on your personal Facebook, always include your face, stick to all of those standard social media techniques that we've talked about and you've probably heard now for 5 years from all of the real estate social media claim to be gurus. But what a consumer that doesn't necessarily know about you, which that's the hardest part of the industry, right? We can all sell homes to our brother and sister and friends. That part is easy because they already trust us. The hard part is building trust with new people outside of your influence network, outside of those that are closest to you. And in order to bring them in, I hate to say it, but there's not that much that one can do to be extraordinarily interesting beyond all of your competition. But the area is what they care about. They want to know what's happening in your town. So creating a page and really making all of your posts and making sure all of your content is geared around that community style, around what's happening, current events, and what the consumer wants to see is your best way of engaging and attracting an audience outside of your own personal network. Now, this is hard for me to say because I've been a real estate agent, a loan officer, and so I've always loved using that music on social media and just making songs about real estate and doing all that fun stuff and letting that be my, oh, look at me. I'm the step above random stranger. But the reality is they've seen other musicians too, right? They want to know about the community and certain events. So I just wanted to throw that tip out there. Hey, Willie, looks like Willie is having some internet troubles. We're going to go ahead and start his form of the presentation pretty soon here. Now, does anybody in the audience have any questions about that social media approach that I'm talking about? Like just to create a page that is solely focused around the community and really doesn't even mention you that much. I'll go ahead and mute him really quickly. All right. Hey, Willie, I'd recommend probably just leaving and joining back again. That might be the best shot. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ahmed. I think that so there's a whole thing to be said around building your marketing strategy around the community itself. So beyond just social media, you could build a website about the community, about a specific community, and try to get that website ranking. And you can then use these pages as they get followers or the website as it gets views. And you could even use that as a leveraging tool to make more connections within your network, right? So let's say I have a page and I'm in the South Florida area. So let's say I have a page called Events in South Florida, and I got it to a point where we have 10,000 followers. So to most people's perspective, 10,000, it's like, oh, that's a pretty good sized page. That's important. I can then use that page and leverage it and go around to local business owners and say, hey, look, I have this page with 10,000 followers about your community. I will post you on this page for absolutely nothing. And in response, maybe you could keep business cards at your front door. Maybe you just build your network connections with business owners, because business owners, not only will you have a reason for them to want to, if you can build a following on those pages, but on top of that, a business owner, they're a local influencer in many different ways. Their customers trust them, which is very important in real estate because you have to build trust with consumers as much as possible. So that's a trusted source telling them you're the best real estate agent for their needs, right? And then on top of that, they probably have their own small following on social media, and they're influencers online in smaller sense, right? They're not a million subscriber YouTube channel most likely, but family that trust them and people that are established in the community that will trust them. So I always like the approach to social media, for example, because once it builds steam, way to network and develop yourself and integrate even further into that community. All right.
How about now, Nick? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can.
We're
All right, perfect. Sorry about that. It's I was on the wrong browser. I got a new computer, so it's a little bit different setup this time. So that's on my end.
Oh, no worries. It was clear that Riverside was not the friendliest of platforms to us this morning either. So, so if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and we'll get into the meat of it. That little social media conversation, that was the potatoes. Now we're getting into the meat. Or if any vegetarians are in the crowd, we're getting into the veggie meat.
All right. Hang on one second. Let me go ahead and pull it up. And you did a good job dancing though for a little bit. Right, Nick?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while because, you know, I'll see, as somebody who's been doing social media for a very long time, as somebody who's developed multiple different pages to have over 30,000 followers, I'll see all these social media gurus in our space, and they'll just hit the same thing, just make 9 videos every single day. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, it's true that making bulk content is important, but also what kind of content? How are you connecting to people? How are you relating to those, not just anyone, but those that you actually want to be connecting with, right? Because social media is much more than just trying to go viral. It's also trying to target and connect with people who will actually become your customers.
Absolutely. It's building that. It's that top of mind awareness, right, Nick?
Exactly.
That's what it's all about. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's topic. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, something that I've been teaching for many, many years. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Some of these things you might be doing already. Some of them might be things that you know you need to be doing or you're not. But again, some of these slides are from a couple different presentations. I just wanted to give you guys some content today. And just really the goal here is to pick up 2 or 3 ideas and apply towards time management, because I really feel that without it and you have control of your time, you can't really be successful, right? Why is it that we all have the same number of hours in a day, right? 24 hours a day. But why is it that some agents are more successful than others, right? And a lot of times it's because what they're actually doing in that time period. So that's why I put this together, best time management strategies for the high producing real estate agent. I'm going to share with you my schedule when I was an agent. I'm a broker now and coach, but I also do sell real estate. But when I was in the thick of it, when I was full-time only doing real estate, I'm going to share with you what my minimum standard was as far as a time management and schedule. But I always get questions on what books am I reading. I just wanted to share with you a couple of different ones that I'm reading right now and rereading, really. This is a great book by Grant Cardone, The 10X Rule. Really talks about maximizing a lot of things in your life. But when it comes to time management, I thought it was important because, if you could 10X your time, what would that look like? And he talks about different strategies on how to do that here. But some of the ones, if you look on the right here, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, great book written many years ago, but the content is just spot on. And what Chet talks about in The Ultimate Sales Machine is these 6 things here. And he talks about, on every piece of note or any paper that you have, just touching it once and being done with it. It's so important. So many times we sit there and we're like professional paper shufflers. But he talks about touch it once, make a list. Right. A lot of you guys have seen the old yellow line paper, like in the bottom left-hand corner, but making a list is so important, and actually a physical list that you could write. And I know that there's a lot of agents that are on here that are like, well, I do it on my phone. I do it on my computer. And that's great too. But I really think that it makes a big difference when you're actually physically writing it. There's an actual theory behind it that when you cross it off, you have a more of a sense of completion. And it keeps you more motivated versus being on a computer on your phone. Number 3, plan how much time you'll actually allocate for each task. So you'll actually see that in some of the things that we do. But if you have, CMA for a listing appointment tomorrow, or that you want to get a mailing out to a neighborhood, or if you want to have a deadline for, or you need to make 10 phone calls today. To be able to block that out and schedule that time in your schedule is important. And the reason why a lot of these things get dropped, these key activities, is because we don't have them scheduled in our schedules, and they're not time blocked. And this is a big mistake. Number 4, planning your day. Actually, plan your day the night before. It always has helped me in the years, and I picked up that tip from Chet Holmes. Planning my day the night before, so when the subconscious mind is working on it already overnight. But the next day I get up, I already know I'm getting up, I'm walking, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing whatever I need to do, and then getting right into work and getting right on my top priorities, which is number 5. Prioritize your list. Right, I have a 9-page to-do list right now as of this morning. But am I going to do all the things that are on that to-do list? Absolutely not. But when I went through and I picked out just 5 or 6 things that I know I can prioritize, that's the most important activity I can do today, and be spot on those activities. So prioritizing is very important. Don't try to do the easy things and leave the hard things and the things that are most important, because you'll find yourself cutting yourself short, and also not get those things accomplished that are going to really make a difference in your business. And then number 6, ask yourself, will it hurt to throw this away? Think about all the paper and garbage and everything else that we keep sometimes, and it becomes disorganized, right? And then you become confused. And what happens? The confused mind does nothing. So Chet talks about that a lot in that book. So I highly recommend The Ultimate Homes. Another great book by a mentor of mine, Dan Kennedy, The No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Great book. And again, really narrows it down to what are the time vampires. He talks about time vampires, like, the gotta minutes, the family members that call you because you're in real estate. So you don't really have a job. So they could just call you anytime during the day. And, they expect for you to just talk to them for an hour. Or bring them to doctor appointments, or hang out with them and go to lunch, those type of things. But he really ties it down into time blocking, and by being away from those time vampires, how much more you can get done. One of the ideas that I picked up from Dan's book, for about 7 years, I rented a suite space. I paid about $250 for a 10 by 12 office. Had no internet, had nothing in it, no phones in it. And what I called it my war room. And basically what I did is I put all my marketing ideas and all the things that I want to do, on a week, day to day, whatever that needed to be done. I have these yellow stickies up in the walls, and I would go in there and I would think. It'd be my think tank. But it allowed me to actually work on my marketing, work on my business. Because if you're always working in your business, you're never going to be able to work on your business. And that's how you grow, and that's how you scale. So that's a great book Dan Kennedy has on the No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. And then obviously I'm a little biased to my own book, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Real Estate Business, which again has some time management tips in there as well. And I'll give you access at the end of this call. I'm going to give you access to how to get a free copy of this book that you can actually download and actually start reading right after the call if you like. So so that's kind of what I'm reading, and these are some resources that I wanted to share with you on that.
Yeah, Willie.
So let's talk about.
Important.
Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry. Just really quick. This topic is so important because the beauty of this job, the beauty of being an agent, that 1099 status, is that you get to pick your own hours. But the reality is that especially when the inventory is low, the top earners, they are picking 8 hours or more every day. They are picking, like, yes, they'll go take a lunch, but time management is so crucial in a 1099 position because of the fact that you can pick your own hours, and just staying disciplined and actually putting in the time. That is half of the battle of being a successful agent, in my opinion.
Nick, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it really is true. I had an interview this morning, and I ask people all the time, why'd you get into real estate? Right. And they just like, well, I hate working behind a desk, or, I don't want to work for anyone. But mostly what I get is that they want the flexibility, right? The flexibility to be with family, the flexibility to have their own hours. But you're right. If it's not managed correctly, I've seen that flexibility actually take people out of the business, because, if they don't have any appointments, then, get up at whatever, take a shower at 11 a.m., right? Or get dressed at noon, whatever the situation may be. And you really have to, as a 1099, even more so, you have to be very disciplined, have a really good schedule. You're up and running by 8 a.m., get dressed, shower, just like you're going to work. And now you are your own boss, right? And I ask myself the question sometimes, how much would I pay myself today, right? If I was hiring myself, what was I worth today, and what did I do, right? Was I worth that $1,000 or $2,000, $3,000 that day? Would I have paid another employee to that amount to do what I did that day? And that's where you'll find yourself really motivated to get up and get going. But I see a lot of agents, unfortunately, it makes you lazy without it, and takes them out of the business, because you get out of this business what you put in. And if you're not putting the hours in and you're only working part-time, you're only going to get paid part-time, right? So time management is a different. Yeah, the time management is difference between high performance people. Sorry, Nick, I wasn't looking at your face on there, but
no,
what'd you say?
I was just saying I love that question so much. How much would I pay myself? That if you ask yourself that, no matter if you're a W-2, 1099, any position, you will strive to be better in life, period. Anyways, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so I say time management is the difference between people or high performance people and people who constantly struggle. That's really all it is, right? And this is what I was saying earlier, is that the high producing agents have great time management skills, right? They have the tools and the strategies each and every day in their discipline to the activities that are going to get the results that they need. So I wanted to share that with you. Warren Buffett, a lot of you guys know who he is. He said the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. And reading his biography, he said that he says no 99 times before to one yes, right? That's because he's getting approached all the time. And we do too, right? As entrepreneurs, you know, can you take me to the dentist? Can you take me to the store? Can you, talk to me for an hour about my problems? Like, you just got to say no. You got to block that out. And there's time for that, right? There's time for personal items. There's time for those things to get done, but not when you're working, not when you're blocking those hours. And, you'll see here in my schedule, you have to block out these like calling and prospecting times and all these, just like you would a listing appointment, right? You wouldn't be answering your phone. You wouldn't be texting. You wouldn't be on social media on a listing appointment. You have to treat that time block just like a listing appointment. All right. So what are just some quick 5 to-dos, time management to-dos I want to go over with you? Plan your week, plan your day, and control incoming calls. Minimum 2 hours a day of proactivity time for lead generation, and then taking some time off. And that's important. I'm going to go over that as to why. But the first one on here is planning your perfect week. There's no such thing as a perfect week. But if there was a perfect week, what would it look like? And that's what you have to really sit down and design, right? You got to look at Monday through Sunday. What would that perfect week look like, right? Family time. And I'll just go through some of the things on here. Using one calendar, so important. Some of us have a calendar, that's written. Some people have a calendar that's on their computer. They have it on their phone. And having 2 or 3 calendars is a big mistake. You want one calendar, okay? One calendar that you're going to do, and whatever that is. If it's online, it's online. For me, it's on my Outlook, right? I have my calendar on that. For some people, they still like the paper, which I use for 20 years, the paper calendar. But use one calendar is so important. Schedule time off. Schedule your vacations, schedule your long weekends, schedule time that you need off. You want to put those into your planner first, because if you don't do that, you're not going to set time. You're just going to keep working, right? Especially if you're a high producing agent, you're just going to keep working because the business just keeps coming in. I would recommend family time, right? Every Sunday night, even to today, for the next 2 weeks on Sunday night, when I'm looking at my week and I'm planning my week, I'm talking to my wife about, okay, the next 2 weeks, what do we have going on with the family? We have birthdays. We have, when my kids were younger, I went to their parades. I went to their schools. I went to, if I had to do drop-offs or pickups or whatever the situation may be, I never missed any of my kids' games. I coached my kids soccer and softball leagues that they had. I have 2 daughters that were very active, and I never missed any games. And the reason for that is because I had a great focus on my time management. And if I had to get up at 4 a.m. to do all these tasks, I was done by 8 o'clock so I can go somewhere, then that's what I had to do. But scheduling family time is so important, because I've seen real estate agents. I think real estate agents are either maybe number 2 or 3 in divorces, and that's down from like doctors and attorneys that just work crazy hours. But real estate agents are right there. And it's because of that right there, not scheduling family time with either your family or spouse. The next one, schedule time for health activities. So important, right? When you're on a plane, what do they say? Put your mask on first, right? So you can help others. Same thing in our business. We have to take care of ourselves. And this is why I really push to get up and go to the gym every day, or go for a walk every day, or do some type of physical activity each and every day, so that I can be healthy, feel good, so I can help others. And then the last one on here is scheduling celebrations, right? You want to reward yourself. For some people, it might be going out for dinner, it might be going on a trip, might be going to get a facial, or getting your nails done, or getting a massage, whatever that may be. Schedule those too, right? Like if I do this, this, and this, and I work my ass off all week long, that I'm going to treat myself to a massage, right? Or I'm going to treat myself to getting my nails done, or whatever that may be. But plan your perfect week. And again, it probably will never happen. I hate to tell you, right? It may never happen where the whole 7 days gets planned exactly how you put it out there, but you're going to be damn close, and you're going to really love it. What are some of the high dollar activities that top producing agents need to be focused on? And this, again, I coach and train agents doing, $500,000, million, $2 million of business, of actually commission that they make each and every year. And they're not focused on doing fact sheets. They're not focused on uploading their listings. They're not focused on, the $15, $20 an hour activities. They're focused on the $300, $500 an hour activities. And it really boils down to these four right here: prospecting and making phone calls. Really hard to delegate that, right? I've tried it over the years, and it doesn't work. Every time I, focus on putting all my attention on someone else doing those activities, I see my business decline. So prospecting activity, you're the brand, you're the person that needs to be making those phone calls, and that needs to be in your schedule. Again, your family time and everything else that you're doing, schedule time off. That's a big high dollar activity. Number two, going on listing appointments, right? It's really hard to delegate that. Again, if you're a big team or a broker owner with a ton of agents and you're giving out your leads, that's great. But for the average agent that's doing, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 in production, you're going out on those listing appointments, right? Because you're going to make the most amount of money on those appointments, and people want to see you. Work with buyers. Don't discount those buyers. Some people say, hey, work with buyers. Hey, buyers represent a big chunk of income if you do it properly. And putting those buyers in and knowing how to work those buyers are important. Now, there is something like I found, and I've been sharing this with my coaching members, is utilizing showing agents, right? Actually paying agents $25, $35, $45 a showing to go out there and show property for you. And then all you're really doing is doing that initial consult with them, but then also negotiating your deal and putting a contract together. That's your job. That's what you get paid the most for. Do that. Let someone else do the showings. Number four, negotiating and getting deals closed. Negotiations is so important. I've seen a lot of attorneys recently kill a lot of deals because the agents just said, just let the attorneys handle it. Let the attorneys handle it. No, do not do that. We're making the most amount of money on these deals. Attorneys are making, I don't know, $700, $800 a deal. We're making thousands of dollars on a deal. Why would we let someone else negotiate that? That's why we get paid the big bucks. So negotiating and getting deals done. That's why I said a few months ago, really hone in on your negotiating skills, take classes, read books on negotiating, because that's what we get paid for. That's why clients hire us, right? So Nick, anything you want to add to any of that you see?
I actually have for you, and you may not have prepared this, but I'm curious your thoughts. So for a really, really busy agent, part of the time management would be knowing which prospects are worth pursuing, especially with number three, working with buyers. Do you have any key questions that you ask up front that will tell you, hey, this buyer has something real, like I'll be able to help them find something, they're worth my time, versus, yeah, needs to find a rental somewhere?
Well, rental is different than buyers, but to your point, I know where you're coming from, is that it really comes down to timing and motivation, Nick. That's how I really segment the priority, right? If they have to buy something in the next 30 days, that's a high priority, right? If they're just kind of kicking around, if we see something great, blah, 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 they're not really that motivated. So the questions I'm asking is, how quick do we need to be there? And if we find you the right property, are you ready to make a move? And if the answer is yes, yes, then we're going. If the answer is like, oh, I don't know, maybe, wishy-washy, then I'm not going to spend a lot of time with them. I'm going to focus on the ones that need to sell buy in the next 30 days. Same thing with listings, right? Like you get some people like, hey, the market's really good. Let's just throw $1 million on there and see what happens. No, I'm not interested, right? There's no motivation there. There's no timing. They're just wasting your time. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's timing and motivation.
Yeah. So urgency, that makes perfect sense, especially in this industry.
Yeah, obviously they have to be pre-qualified, right? So if they're not willing to get a pre-qualification or show me proof of funds, I'm not really interested. And if they're not interested in signing a buyer agreement, I'm not interested either. And that's going to be a big one coming. I'm not even going to spend time with it today. There's some things going on with NAR and our industry that we're going to be required to have those buyer contracts signed in order to represent the buyer properly and get paid. And I wouldn't list a house, right? None of us would list a home without an actual contract to list our home. Why would you work with a buyer without a contract, right? So that's something that we'll do on a future call, though, for sure. And I can go over the buyer presentation and actually how to get buyers to sign that.
Yeah, Dawn Pfaff, my state's fearless leader, she's been talking about this a lot. So I know if she were here, she unfortunately couldn't make it today. She's at the doctor's, but if she were here, she would be eating this up. She loves that conversation.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's take a look at perfect week. Like here's my perfect week. This was my perfect week that I had for years. And this is why I'm sharing it with you now is, if I go from Sunday through Saturday, right? You see, we'll just start on Sunday. It's either a day off or I'm doing open houses. I used to do an open house every weekend, sometimes 2 on a Sunday. I go from 11 to 1 and then 2 to 4. And any agent in my office that had listings, I'd ask them, can I do an open house? Why? I built my business from that. And there's still agents today. Open houses do work. And we could do a whole class on open houses too and how to actually effectively do an open house. Because if you're just going to stick a sign on a lawn 15 minutes before the open house, you're wasted your time, right? But if you market it correctly and do what we call a mega open house, we could show you how to drive a lot of traffic, not only buyers, but also sellers to your open house. So I'll share that in the future with you guys as well. But Sundays, again, open house, family time. But you notice there at night, plan Monday and the next week. This is where I would sit down with my wife Sunday night, and we will plan out the week, the next couple of weeks. Monday morning, right to the gym, right? We always want to start our diets on Mondays, so I'm no different. Monday is always a great time to get back. But checking your voicemails, that was the first thing that I just wanted to make sure. Emails, voicemails. Not that I would respond to them, but I would at least get them so I know what the priorities were. Make sure there was no fires, and then I would go right into my day. But on Mondays, I always did a training call, and so Monday mornings I didn't do my prospecting then. But if you notice, like at 11:30, I was checking voicemails again, and then having lunch, and then I would have what we call proactivity time. The proactivity time are things like writing your personal notes, making those phone calls to new leads coming in, putting out those fires that you had to get to that are only you can handle. But really doing the activities that are going to make you business, make you money. And that was something we always blocked in. And that's what I always told people, block just like a listing appointment. Then before the end of the day, check your voicemails again, check your emails, make sure everything's there, because the worst thing you could do is not check your emails or voicemails and not get back to people and lose business. And then at the end of the day, I would plan my next day, right? I plan the next day from there. And then Tuesday I would get up, thing, but you notice how my proactivities are from 9 to 11. And I would do that pretty much Monday through Saturday. Yes, Saturdays. This is, again, if you want to achieve certain levels, you have to put the extra time in. And I did. I knew I needed to work Saturdays in the beginning to get my business to where, I got to that 100,000 mark, then 500,000, and made over $1 million in commissions because I needed to put that extra time in. But the 9 to 11 slot is for proactivities. Now, if you had something going on in the morning, like I did on Monday, then you move it, right? You don't delete it. You don't not do it. You just move it to later in the afternoon, but you want to make sure you get that in there. Now, there are going to be times that you can't get it. Like I said, this is the perfect week. And if you can't get it, again, if you can get 80% of it, so maybe you miss one of those time blocks during the week, that's going to be okay. Anything less than that, then you really didn't win the week, right? You need to win the week. And if you can hit 80% of that, you're going to be great. Again, checking the voicemails in the afternoon, lunch. I always had lunch either with a client, with an agent, or I would just do listen to podcasts, read, do whatever, but I would take that time. And then in the afternoons, I had it all blacked out. This is when I would do my appointments, right? So from 1 to 4 o'clock, or really 1 to 6:30, I had that blocked out for appointments. Always checking emails at the end of the day and voicemails, and then planning the next day. All right. So again, this can be used any way. This is what worked for me. This is what's worked for many of my coaching members. But this kind of gives you an idea of how you have to really structure your day in order to be productive. All right, number 2, I talked about planning your actual day, taking 15 minutes to plan each day, like I showed you in my schedule. First, I would look at follow-up calls and the power hours, right? Follow-up calls, people I needed to get back to, people that said, Willie, I'm not motivated right now or looking, but I'm going to look in the spring. Well, my Rolodex pops up or my computer pops up, gives me a reminder this person's looking to buy. Those pop up on my schedule for that day. I'm calling them. And number 2, appointments and client meetings. Appointments. I want to make sure I'm going out to those appointments, going on those listing appointments, work with those buyers. So I want to make sure I'm doing that. And sometimes people would say, well, what happens if a client wants to see houses in the morning? And that's when you have it blocked out. Tell people you have an appointment already. They don't need to know it's for follow-up calls. Just say, I already have appointments in the morning. Can we do something at 1? Can we do something at 2? And you'll be surprised. They'll say, oh yeah, I could do that. No problem. I could do 2 o'clock. I could do 3 o'clock. Okay, great. So quick to say, yeah, all right, 10 o'clock. Sure. I'll show you, because we don't want to lose the lead. Try that. Right. And the one thing I want to say on here is that people don't care about your personal lives, right? They really don't. So when you say, oh, I can't do it on Saturday, I can't show you houses because, I have family in from the weekend, or my kids got softball, or my kids got a football game. Clients don't want to hear that. So stop wasting your time talking about that. Actually, they think you're too busy now for them, and they're going to move to someone else, right? So you always answer, hey, I already have an appointment Saturday morning. How about Sunday afternoon, right? They don't need to know Saturday you're at a football game or at a baseball game, right? So just make sure you keep that, because that's something that I hear a lot. Or I got to be home for my kids, or I got to do this. They don't care. They don't care. Number 3, to-do items, return calls, right? Those are things you can wait to do. Those kind of, low on the priority list, but you definitely want to make sure you're returning phone calls and getting to at least 5 or 6 of your to-do items, like Chet Holmes talks about. And then the 4th one's on here, everything else, right? Everything else that needs to be done, and that's what gets in there. But you definitely want to get those follow-up calls first, even before appointments. Like you don't want to even, that prospecting time is like non-negotiable. Sometimes you even move appointments to make sure that your follow-up calls are being done and that you're doing those blackout times. So that's number 2, planning your day. Here's a little thing, that's a piece of paper that we would put up on our desk, or we would put, outside of our cubicles to let people know that we're in a power hour and do not disturb. People would sometimes respect it, sometimes not. But my admin staff was having problems with a lot of the agents bothering them. So we made a policy, and if this is up on their doors, please do not knock. Please do not go in. Let them do what you need to do. And if you email admin, someone will be able to assist you. All right. Number 3, controlling incoming calls. This is a big one. Explain to you message when you'll be returning their call. So many of us are so quick to have that cell phone on all day, right? It's ringing, and you're prospecting, you're working on a marketing thing, but the phone rings and you go and pick it up. You don't need to be doing that. And why I say that is because people, again, think they're going to lose a lead. How many leads have you really lost by not answering the phone? All right. But we pick up that phone, and now it's a client, and now you're 30 minutes in because you're answering questions that are pretty much going to self-eliminate once they talk to their attorney or their lender. But now you're on the phone when they're trying to explain it to them. You can always get back to them, and you let them know that. So don't answer every call. Schedule time to return calls and be consistent. So there's an actual script that I used to use, and basically it'd say, hi, you reach Willie Miranda Real Estate Group. Please note, I'll be in meetings throughout the day, right? I didn't say I was prospecting or with my daughter, or meetings throughout the day, and returning phone calls between 11 and 12, and again between 4 and 5. For immediate assistance, please call my office. And I repeat it twice, or leave your name and number after the tone. I'll return your call as soon as possible. Thank you and have a great day. So I would have people say to me, hey, Willie, no problem. Hey, just call me later, 4 to 5, nothing urgent. Or they would actually call my office and my admin would take care of things, right? But they always knew that I was going to give them a call between 11 and 12 or between 4 and 5, so that I was able to stay focused on my activities. And I would cheat every once in a while, like the voicemail would go and I listened to it and they'd say, oh yeah, just no big deal, give me 5, great. And then I get right back to what I'm doing, because if I picked up that phone, it would have been 15, 20 minutes, half hour from that 2-hour time block. And that 2-hour time block is the most effective. I mean, that 2-hour time block represents 20% of the 80. You ever hear the 80-20 rule? Like, that's your 20% activity that are going to give you the 80% results. So if you look at if you think about 50 hours a week to be successful in real estate, for me, I felt 50 hours was the minimum work week. So I was working 10-hour days, right? Or sometimes into Saturday, but let's just say 10 hours or 50 hours. You take 50 hours, what's 20% of that? 10, right? 10 hours. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. You guys with me? 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Presented 10 hours on my 50-hour work week. Those 10 hours and what I was doing in those 10 hours represented 80% of my business, because prospecting, follow-up, negotiating, all that stuff was what was bringing in the money. And if I didn't do those 2 hours, right, or I skipped 2 or 3 times a week, it was affecting the 80% of my income. So this is, again, controlling your voicemail is so important, and making sure you have a script like this works great. I also use a voicemail log. And I know this seems old school. I've had this log for 20 years. It's still there. You could still get it. But why? Again, I wanted to write things down. And how many times have you called someone and it says, you listen to their message, right? Thank you for calling, you know, your call is important to me, all this stuff. And then the beep comes on and it says, sorry, voicemail is full, right? Like, that just ticks me off. It's one of my big pet peeves. I actually talk about it in my book. So what I want to do is I want to always be clear on my messages out, writing them down, having them in front of me. And believe it or not, they got done quicker and they got done more efficiently because they weren't hidden in my voicemail on my phone. I didn't have to go back and listen to all these voicemails again, which is a huge time vampire and sucks the living time out of you by going through all these. So by having them down, it actually becomes more like a to-do list for you of your calls. And having a voicemail log works very, very good. All right, so that was number 3. Going into number 4. Nick, any comments? Anything you wanted to say there? Questions?
Well, I actually just wanted to note, I really love blog. I, for one, am terrible with voicemails. It's very easy to just let them all pass, especially after they've built up a little bit. Now, Bruce and I, we're on the marketing side of things, so marketing technology side of things. So we don't, luckily, we're not as front facing and we don't get as many calls. But I know if I were on the consumer facing side of things, oh man, probably my biggest pain point personally. So I actually really like, even though it does seem a little old school, having pen and paper, I love that approach. And I still take, I think that there's value in writing things down as well. So I
absolutely,
yeah, I just like the idea. No questions though.
All right, been hitting this pretty much the 2 hours of proactivity, lead generation. What do you do, right? Calls, new leads, seller calls, buyer clients, handwritten notes are something that I think are imperative. And we talk about that before. Set yourself apart. Send, you know, if you're not sending personal handwritten notes, send personalized videos to people. You know, wishing them happy birthday, wishing them happy anniversary, wishing them, hey, congratulations on Johnny graduating high school, whatever that may be. You want to have that personal attention with notes or videos. Adding and deleting names from your database, right? Your database is your business. You want to make sure that you're adding and deleting names from that. And I already described the 80-20 rule to you, but this is something, a day without lead generation is a day you didn't work. If you just blow off lead generation for the day, you really didn't work. So don't expect to get paid for that day, right? How many of those days can you go without getting paid that you can actually sustain? So if you're working every day and you're doing lead generation activities, even though you might not have sold anything, you're doing the activities, right? And that's all we can control. We can't control results. We can't control the sale, right? But we can control those activities that we do every day. And by doing those activities, the results will follow, right? So make sure that you're following up on those activities. Number 5, take at least one day off. We talked about that, so you can recharge or energize. If you can't do it, like let's say you're just working every day of the week, you're working Sundays, try to take a half day off. Maybe it's a half day off on Friday, maybe it's a half day off midweek, like on a Wednesday, but really try to take a full day off if you can per week, because you will get burned out in this business pretty quick, and it will have a major effect on your family as well. So prioritize, implement, evaluate. You want to definitely prioritize your task each and every day. A, B, C them if you have to. Do the A's first and then move down to B, C's, but just give yourself the grace that not everything's going to get done every day. It's just not going to happen. Sometimes I go through my to-do list and just something happened, or fire happens, right? Things happen and I don't get it, but then I'll push it to the following day. But I'll make sure that it gets done, moving forward. At the end of each day, you want to evaluate how you did for the day. So I always try to look at night and say, okay, what did I accomplish? What I didn't do, determine what you need to do differently or have done differently. And that's where you'll find yourself like, I should have never answered that phone call. It was 45 minutes I took with a friend or someone that was just calling to talk about nothing. Acknowledge your achievements and then plan the next day and make a new to-do list each and every day. So that's kind of, I have a couple other things on here. We already kind of talked about time blocking. It's kind of what my schedule looks like when I'm actually blocking things in. Like I bring my daughter to school every day, and these are different things that I would do, kind of as an example. I got this 3D board. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that 3D board, which is basically, I used to remember I said I had this this war room, I would call it. And I would have 3 big sheets of paper, and I would do a doing, and a done. And I would put my priorities and things I wanted to do on the left. In the middle, these are the things I was working on. And on the right, these are the things that I accomplished. Actually, I could actually celebrate the things that were done. And it would kind of look something like this, right? So if I knew I needed to do a client event, a postcard, a mixer, these are the things I was working on in that war room. And then here are the things I was actually actively doing, and then here are the things that were done. So it was just stickies, right? They're just stickies. You guys know I don't have any right here in front of me, but yellow pads of paper, and I would just write these things on there, and I would put them on that board, and I would move it to the next one, and I would move it to the next one. It was nice to be able to see all the things that I had done in a 90-day period, and that's a great way to keep on track and keep things going. Checklists. I'm really big on checklists. This is like a checklist that I use for submitting listings. When we're working with a buyer, Nick, you mentioned about, having talking with buyers. I have a buyer profile that we talk, a seller profile sheet. So when we're on interviews, what we're talking about, making sure we get done. More about these in the future, but this is something that works very good. When you submit a contract, what are you doing? Just to make sure, again, contract to close is where the money is made, because if you give good service, it's because you have a great checklist, right? And I'm calling other agents on the other side and going, hey, did you get this? Did you do this? And I'm like, oh crap, I forgot about that. Well, they don't have a checklist. And sometimes these forgot about that has led to delayed closings, even deals falling through because they didn't provide the proper information, where we had this right through from the time we get the contract to the review that we ask for, to the closing gift that we give. We have checklists for. I have this sometimes as this is a piece of paper, and I have in a packet. I just go to Staples, and they would put it in like a little binder and a tear sheet. And every day I would just fill this thing out, put my top priorities for the day. Never go to 10, but I would do 5 or 6 for some personal to-dos, dry cleaner, stuff like that. And then I would write down some different calls that were priorities to me. And I would actually physically write my schedule here. So I had something in writing in front of me in case I didn't have my computer or the phone. Now there's so many apps and everything else that you can use, but still people like paper, and that's why I wanted to use that. Keep track. If you want to really take a look and really hold yourself accountable, write down what you do every 15 minutes. Write down. That's what my coach did for me early on, because I just felt like, oh, I'm working 80 hours a week. And he said, I'm going to call BS on that. I'm like, I am. I'm going in, I'm leaving, I'm coming home. You go driving time. You got, water cooler talk. You got this, you got that. How much time are you actually physically working in your business? And what he made me do is he made me write down on a sheet of paper every 15 minutes what I was doing. And I did that for, I think, like 2 weeks. And when I did that, I reported I wasn't working 80 hours a week. I was probably working more like 20 hours a week. But when you track and measure your time use, you really hold yourself accountable, and you become more productive because you become aware of the time wasters in your life. These are just some questions.
So just on all of this, really, on the topic as a whole, a lot of people understand that this is what they need in their life, right? But when you don't have the habits of actually scheduling, putting it in your calendar, actually following this process, I forget exactly what it is. It takes 13 days until a habit feels like it's formed of doing the same
45, 41. I mean, I don't think they really know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different. It takes a lot of effort to get to a point, because obviously one thing, once it becomes habit, all of this becomes a lot simpler. And then number two is, if you start seeing the result, it becomes simpler. Well, real estate is a weird industry in the sense that you are going to see results for today's work possibly 2 months from now when you actually get that commission check. So what do you tell coaching clients? Which, I mean, one of the answers is finding accountability, getting a coach who will keep you rigid to the schedule. But how do you get people motivated to actually start this process, to start using their calendar, to start time blocking?
I mean, doesn't it center around, like, look at what I've produced, look at what check I have here, look at the houses that I've closed, the proof is in the pudding? Doesn't that make sense, or is there more to it?
No, I think from what I hear from Nick says, how do you explain to coaching members, how to agents, like how this business really works? And I actually go 90 days with people, because I tell them that, as a new agent coming into the business, or an agent just kind of, maybe you're experienced and you're in a slump and you want to get started again, what you do today doesn't really show up for 60, 90 days. Right. Because once you meet a prospect today, or you get on a phone call and you start sending them listings, and you start showing them homes, and you put a contract in and you do inspections, it's before you get that actual physical paycheck, it's sometimes 90 days out, right? As long as that, sometimes longer. So, how you stay motivated is by building the pipeline, is what I tell them, right? Get that momentum going like a snowball effect. But once we build that pipeline, and once you get through that first 60, 90 days, and then you start getting some checks, as long as you're doing those activities every day, like we talked about, that momentum is going to still be there, and it's going to keep going, right? That's the snowball effect. But what happens with a lot of agents, they have these spikes. So they need business, they start making phone calls, they get a listing, and then they stop doing this, and, I got a listing, I got to focus on this, but they give up their prospecting time. So now they get this closed, they get a paycheck, but then now they get no business again, and the next month they got no checks coming in. So if you're doing those 2 hours a day minimum, no matter what, you're going to be more consistent on your income and your paychecks, and that's how it's going to keep. So just think about that. And that's what these 2 questions are here. You have to ask yourself every day, is what I'm doing right now the best use of my time? Right? Is what I'm doing right now the best use of my time? Or could I be doing something else that's going to get me closer to my goals? Right? And I find myself sometimes being in meetings or being out at events, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'd rather be home with my kids. I'd rather be home with my family than waste my time here. Or I'd rather be doing phone calls than being out to lunch with an agent that I'm never going to sell a house to for 2 hours and listen to all their problems, when I should be at the office making phone calls or at my home office. So that's number one. And number 2, what's the profit in this, right? Like, what's the profit in this? Like, business hours, 9 to 5, whatever you make it to yourself, 8 to 6, you got to be writing business. You got to be looking for business. If you don't have business, then you need to be prospecting for business. So you got to ask yourself, what's the profit in this? Is this something that's going to be profitable for me? And it really comes down to time and money.
What I really like, and something about this slide that I'll add, you can use what we call in digital marketing the why game in your reflection process. Why game in digital marketing, you're trying to find the primary benefit or differentiators of company. You just keep asking why. You say, okay, what is your advantage? Why does a customer want you? And the owner gives, keep asking why until you get to the core emotion that your customer wants to feel. Well, you can play the why game when you're reflecting on what you need to improve to motivate yourself. Like, oh, let's say you're a brand new agent and you're waking up at 10:30 because that's why you wanted to break away from your 9 to 5. You wanted to be able to sleep in. Well, maybe that's something you need to work on. Why are you waking up at 10:30? Well, it's because I go to bed at 2 a.m. Well, why do you do that? And you just keep working backwards until you find the core of what is your roadblock. And then you can address that actual roadblock. I think that aspect of reflection in terms of time blocking, trying to figure out internally what's causing you to struggle with being processed and diligent in your daily activities, just trying to keep asking yourself why until you see the root cause will really be helpful, I think.
Yeah, Tony Robbins is a great exercise of that. It's actually going seven layers deep to get to what your actual why is. Like, why are you even in real estate, right? Why do you exist, right? For me, it was providing I got down to is for me to provide to my family what I didn't have growing up as a kid, right? And it wasn't to spoil my kids. It's just that, I had my family lived check to check, and it was a struggle, right? And I didn't want my family to have that. That was my why, to work hard, to make sure they didn't have any college loans. And, I paid my way through college. Not one penny was given to me by my parents. And, I say that respectfully, but my point is that everyone has their own whys, right? And real estate was the vehicle to provide for my why. Right? And that's what helped me there.
Yeah. And now taking a little bit of a self-improvement, but if you're feeling unmotivated, taking one of those Tony Robbins techniques, right? And just actually, in those moments, thinking of that original why, right? Willie wakes up on a Saturday. He doesn't want to do his prospecting calls. What's his why? He thinks about wanting to support his family. Boom. Next thing you know, he's on the phone.
Same thing, get out of bed. Don't, you think about that snooze one more time. It's like, no, I got to jump out. This is why, right? You got to have a solid why in this business. All right. Well, we're just wrapping things up here. Social media, keep it at 30 minutes a day. Too many agents. I see them in the office scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Facebook, all these other things. It's just a waste of time. And when I look at some screen times, some of my agents, 2 hours, 3 hours a day on social media, and they didn't make one prospecting phone call, right? You're just wasting time. So use it as a vehicle to deepen a relationship with your clients, know what they're doing. No, but definitely don't waste your time on it. It's a big time suck. So, all right. So just to wrap it up, I promise give you access to a copy of my book. You can go to freewilliestuff.com, and there you'll see at the bottom there's a PDF, chapters 1 through 10 of my book, where basically breaks it down into time management strategies, how to work with buyers, sellers, finances, what you should be saving for, how much money should go into marketing, those type of things. You'll find that all in my book at freewilliestuff.com. And then we have a bunch of tools and materials there for you guys to take a look at. And actually a copy, I did a webinar on the bottom there, time management for high producing real estate agents. You can actually watch a replay of that from there. So that's all I got for you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you want more information on different prospecting methods, not only can you get Willie's book for free, freewilliestuff.com, but we've done a handful of these Ask the Experts event now. We take a deep dive into digital marketing techniques, SEO, traditional prospecting techniques. There is a ton of content available state members. So just go ahead to the YouTube channel, or you can send us an email and I'll hand deliver all of the different content you're looking for. So the best email to reach us Nick at nystatemls.com, Nick at newyorkstatemls.com. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Willie, for the great presentation. I appreciate
Thank you,
it
guys.
as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Bruce, our resident SEO specialist. Any final
Yeah.
questions, comments, concerns?
No, I do get a lot out of these, and I mean I'm actually acquiring my real estate license as well. It's advised and recommended with my state MLS, and I've actually spent a lot of offsite time researching and kind of evaluating what Larry's doing, and no, I just really get a lot out of these, so I appreciate your time.
Good. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Willie.
And we'll see you guys next month. Maybe we'll do go over a buyer presentation next month. More buyers and how to get buyers to sign the contract, which I think would be pretty good.
That would be awesome.
Take it